My name is David Strouser. I'm from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and today I want to talk briefly about career development in young adults with disabilities and the role that psychological well-being plays related to the career development process. So to do this, I would like to first of all give you an idea of what I want to cover and start by first introducing the Illinois Work and Well-Being Model as a model that can help us understand career development and employment of people with disabilities. From there, I'm going to talk about psychological well-being as it relates to career development and how psychological well-being relates to the overall career development process, specifically as it relates to the three dimensions of career development that will be introduced in the model. And then I'll provide some basic recommendations for strengthening psychological well-being or the importance of addressing psychological well-being in the career development process. So the Illinois Work and Well-Being Model is a model that has been developed at the University of Illinois to look at the career development of individuals with disabilities and specifically incorporating the ICF framework and using the fundamentals of the ICF and tying it into work as an outcome and specifically the career development process. The framework has been starting to be commonly used in the area of cancer research related to the career development of young adult cancer survivors. And some of the data that I'm going to be providing today will be based on that population. One of the key parts of the ICF is functioning and how functioning relates to participation. And the Illinois Work and Well-Being Model continues that and places an emphasis on how personal and environmental factors can impact functioning and how functioning impacts the career development process. Core to the Illinois Work and Well-Being Model is the person-environment interaction, people interacting with their environments, which would imply that we have contextual factors that impact the career development process, and we'll see in the Illinois model the domain of contextual, which consists of both personal, environmental, and functioning. We also have the career domain, which consists of three major domains or areas related to career development. People becoming aware of what they want to do and how they relate to the world of work. The acquisition process as it relates to acquiring necessary education or employment. And then the third part is maintaining connection or connectedness with work and employment and both in school as well for some individuals. Ultimately, our end goal is to increase participation in four major areas, which are home, community, social, and work. One area of functioning that has received some recent attention as a powerful and potent factor related to overall functioning is well-being, specifically psychological well-being. Research has consistently shown that individuals who report higher levels of psychological well-being have better functioning and overall participation in major life areas. Unfortunately, there's been limited research related to well-being with young adults and adults with disabilities, and I'm going to present to you today some limited research that we have done at the University of Illinois on looking at psychological well-being and career development. And specifically, one thing that will be important to highlight as we move forward is that we find out that psychological well-being interacts with functioning and has a differential effect. And I'll explain that in a little bit more what a differential effect is, a differential effect on the career development process. Moving on, one thing we need to talk about is how do we conceptualize psychological well-being. And one framework that has received attention and has been shown to be strong is the PERMA model. And PERMA is an acronym for 5 different components that relate to overall well-being. And the first component is positive emotion, increasing levels of positive emotion related to better well-being. Engagement, people who are more engaged in the activities that they participate in, and overall society and activities in general. Positive relationships with others. So we have positive emotions in one area, we also have positive relationships with others as being critical. Meaningfulness. Individuals find meaning in what they do and meaning in their life, and that's related to well-being. And the final piece is a sense of achievement. Individuals who have a sense of achievement for their life and that they are achieving goals and objectives that are important to them. With this, again, we look at the Illinois Work and Wellbeing Model as a framework for us to bring this all together. So as you're looking at the screen here, on your far left will be the contextual domain, which will consist of the personal, environmental, and limitations or functioning. And in the middle, we have the career domain, which consists of the three factors related to career that I mentioned, both awareness, acquisition, and maintenance. And then on the final domain, there is our participation domain, which consists of our 4 outcomes. Now, real quickly moving on, key part of this framework, as with the ICF, is that this is an interactive framework, and that domains and factors impact each other both within the domains and across the domains. And that's why as you look at this chart in this figure here, you will see bidirectional arrows indicating that we impact one area, we're going to have a reciprocal impact in other areas of the framework as well. So this is a slide that will be important for us to understand, kind of bring everything together. One thing that, moving forward, talk to you about research related to this that we're finding on psychological well-being and employment and career development with young adults. Specifically, this data that I'm presenting is on young adult cancer survivors. What I want to highlight to you through these next 3 slides is the differential effect that well-being and functioning have on the career development domains. And what we're finding, very importantly, and now we're starting to replicate this multiple times, is that there are different aspects of functioning have different impacts on the career development process. And we'll see here, going through the next 3 slides, that based on whether we're talking about awareness, acquisition, or maintenance, we will see different aspects of psychological well-being and different aspects of functioning impact those respective factors. So the slide that we're looking at right now is looking at what is the relationship between well-being and job awareness, the first part of the career development process. And what we find initially is that the psychological well-being, as operationalized by the PERMA framework, has a significant relationship with job awareness. People who have higher levels of well-being, psychological well-being, are also reporting higher levels of job awareness, which is consistent with prior research. In addition, we then added functioning, people's perceived physical functioning and people's perception of their mental health functioning. So that question is, how well do these individuals perceive that they're able to manage their physical conditions or their physical limitations, and how well they're able to manage their mental health aspects or functioning. And what we find when we add that to the model is that the impact of psychological well-being is mediated through mental health functioning to job awareness. What that means is psychological well-being increases people's perception of their ability to function and manage their mental health situation, which then relates to job awareness. What we see here on the top part of the diagram is that physical health functioning is not implicated. What this would suggest is that people's perception of their physical health functioning does not impact the job awareness component to the degree that mental health functioning does. So this is a finding that we have now consistently shown multiple times, that when we talk about helping people become aware of their jobs, what they want to do, how they relate to the world of work, that it's really focusing on their mental health aspects is a critical component. Now, moving on to job acquisition, we see a little bit different story. We see that PERMA, or psychological well-being, is directly related to job acquisition, like it was in the first model. But what we see here is both physical and mental health functioning being related to job acquisition. What this suggests is that psychological well-being is impacting job acquisition through both physical and mental health functioning. And as a result, what this suggests to us is if we want to increase people's job acquisition or the process of finding a job, we have to address both well-being, but also their physical and mental health functioning, strengthening their abilities to manage their physical and mental health will have implications for job acquisition. Finally, moving on to the last phase of the career development is job maintenance. What we see here is that PERMA is related to job maintenance, but then also PERMA is related to job maintenance through physical health functioning. Now, an important piece here is that physical health functioning impacts job maintenance, and PERMA continues to impact job maintenance independent of physical functioning. So what this means in practical terms is when we talk about people maintaining a job, we need to talk about helping them increase their physical functioning, but we also need to address the PERMA aspect or their psychological well-being, as psychological well-being also has a direct and indirect effect on job maintenance. So in summary, what we found is that there's a differential effect on well-being and functioning on the career development process. Specifically, addressing the emotional factors, PERMA and mental health functioning, directly is related to job awareness. If we want to talk about helping people acquire a job, we need to address both well-being, but also their physical and mental health functioning. And if we want to address job maintenance, we need to address PERMA or well-being, as well as the physical functioning. Mental health functioning does not have as much of an implication for job maintenance as it does, for example, job awareness. So this is what I refer to as the differential effect. Based on the career development domain or factor that we're working with, we may want to address specific things or specific aspects of the individual to maximize outcomes. So overall, the implications of this study would suggest several things. One, psychological well-being is an important factor for career development. So anything that we can do to strengthen well-being, whether it's increasing the positive emotions, positive relationships, engagement, meaningfulness, achievement, will pay dividends as it relates to the career development process. Along those lines, we need to talk about specific aspects of functioning as it relates to what area of career development we are going to work on. We're talking about helping people become aware of what they may be interested in or how they fit into the labor market. Addressing issues related to mental health functioning and PERMA would be important. And we've talked about, again, this as the differential effect. So what we have overall is that addressing psychological well-being and address physical and mental health functioning has implications for the career development process. And based on what area of the career development process we are choosing to work with, we may want to be emphasizing certain aspects of psychological well-being and physical and mental health functioning.